Hi, I'm Brian,
And I'm Michaela, and this is Drink the Movies.
a podcast where each week we try to recreate a classic movie drink and discuss the movie that inspired it.
Thanks for joining us. Now let's drink the movies.
Well, hello and welcome to episode 145 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela. And Michaela, as we approach episode 145, I have one bit of advice for you.
Okay.
Don't
I'm all
panic.
ears. Don't panic. Okay. That's one of my favorite lines of all time. Usually it's with another film because this guy runs down the stairs screaming, "Don't panic, don't panic." But really, it's great advice in general. Just don't panic.
It is. It is. That's true. That's true. It's applicable in a lot of situations, and it's definitely applicable if you are making your way across the galaxy, because bad news, your planet just got blown up. And that's what we're digging into today, Michaela. We are talking about The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This is a story that goes back for a long time, back into the 70s, and it stays alive through, I don't know, kind of this collective conscious of everyone. This is a story that people really love, people really identify with, and even if you're not familiar with the story, you're definitely familiar with some of the themes of this guide.
Absolutely. What I find interesting is this film came out in like 2004, 2005, I want to say 2005. And when it did, I swore that I had seen it before. I was like, they had to have made this. This is probably its second or third rendition. It was one of those things early on where I swore I had seen this, and I hadn't, because they hadn't made a film about this, but they had made a TV series. There had been a number of books. Doctor Who was I don't want to say a knockoff of this, but there are certainly a lot of things. If you're a Doctor Who fan, you're going to identify with a lot of thematic similarities in all of this. And it was really interesting because it's almost like visiting an old friend. If you like that kind of genre, if you don't like that kind of genre, this is just going to grate on your nerves for 109 minutes. And sorry, not sorry, but that's what's going to happen, because it fills every bit of time with this zeitgeist.
That's right. I'm not sure that was the appropriate usage of it there. That's true.
I just
Absolutely.
learned what zeitgeist is, everybody.
That's true,
Brian
yeah.
has explained to me my word of the day is zeitgeist.
That's right. That is the word of the day. 42 is the number of the day. So everyone out there, grab your towel, grab the gin, and let's go, because we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with a drink. The drink will be easy. We'll get through that, no problem. Talking about this movie, that's going to be harder. But let's start with the cocktail. So let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Don't panic, Brian.
Don't panic.
So where did we get this cocktail from? I have a feeling that this is not the only pan-galactic Gargle blaster that is out there. In fact, I know that that's true. I think that there are quite a few of them that we looked at. And this one really, I think I found it. I want to say I found it. And the thing that got me with it was the smoking of the bog peat, and the fact that it's gin. We know we love gin. There was one that was just coconut, Brian, and I made the decision to just not do that for you. So that's
good.
That was a good idea. But this comes from How to Drink on YouTube. It's a video that you can watch, and it's really cool. How to Drink, we love them. I think we've used a couple of their stuff in the past as inspiration for our own cocktails. So let's just get down to it, eh?
Indeed. Yeah. So this is the Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster. It is the perfect drink to set you off on your journey. It's going to come together kind of simple, but you are going to need some stuff, I guess, that you might not have, or you might not feel inclined to have. And we'll kind of talk you through that and see if we can come up with a solution to get you there, or at least close to there. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to mix this up kind of martini style. So into a shaker tin, you're going to put 2 ounces of gin. And then you're going to put 3 to 4 ounces of a 20% saline solution. Basically what that does, think of it as like when you put salt into like your baking. It's just going to like make the flavors pop a little bit more. So you'll see saline solutions in cocktails quite a lot, especially in newer, more modern ones. It seems to be pretty in vogue to do. So to do that, you're just going to weigh out some water. So basically weigh out like, I don't know, like 200 grams of water, and then put in like 20 grams of salt in there, and then just kind of stir it until it dissolves. You can do that. It'll keep for a super long time if you want to put it into an eyedropper. I always just kind of make it up as I need because I don't use it that often. But that's going to be what that is. It's just some salt water. So 2 ounces of gin, and then 3 or 4 drops or so of that saline solution, go into a shaker tin, go ahead and give that a stir with some ice, and then you're going to strain it out into a chilled coupe glass. Then what you're going to do is you're going to top it with a little bit of seltzer, not too much, just maybe like a half ounce or so. It's just going to give it a touch of effervescence. And then you're going to float some Fernet Branca on top, about a bar spoon's worth. So just kind of layer that into a bar spoon and just kind of let it float across the top. It's very dark and murky looking, but Fernet Branca is delicious. It's an Amaro. It is originally it was used as like an aperitif, digestif kind of thing. It's this Italian Amaro. It's made out of like, I don't know, 300 different botanical ingredients to it. It's kind of chocolatey in a way. It's kind of black licorice-y in a way. It's kind of delicious and weird and really hard to describe. But if you've ever had it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Put a spoon of that in there. It's going to really give this cocktail a lot of body. And then the trick here is you're going to get some bog peat smoke. How do you do that? Well, that's tricky. That is tricky, I will say. What you're going to need to do is you're going to need to get yourself some way of smoking your cocktail. That can be like one of those smoking gun things. It can be like one of those little like wooden pucks that has a little thing you torch on top. But I found on good old Amazon some peat bog fog from Foghat. It's culinary smoking fuel, it says. And I thought that was going to be the best way to get some bog peat aroma into my cocktail. So go ahead and smoke it with that if you want. Lemon twist for garnish, and you're good to go. Like I said, this one is complicated. It's really good, actually. It's like this, like kind of this umptious martini sort of thing, which is really delicious. I like that kind of peat bog aroma you get on the nose. That's kind of neat. If you're familiar with smoky scotches, that's kind of what that is. And then it's this very luxurious kind of martini underneath. Michaela, do you have any kind of comments on the way this tastes before I break it down and see if we can make this a little simpler for people?
Well, I'm going to quote the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy here and say that the Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster is said to be like having your brain smashed in by a slice of lemon wrapped around a large gold brick.
Yes, that's fairly accurate. That's fairly accurate.
Is that right? I mean, I feel like that's it. That's it. Like, it's very boozy. Don't let the salinity of the salt, the saline mixture throw you off, because this does not become a salt fest in any. No. You know, we've done a salt fest. We did a sardine drink. Okay. This is not that. This is very different. And I think that even though the ingredients are a little esoteric, a little hard to find, I think that this is definitely worth it. You were really surprised with how it tasted.
Yeah, because it's just some gin basically, and then you float the Fernet on there and smoke it. So I'm like, I don't know if that's going to taste good at all. I don't know if those flavors are going to pair well together or not. But yeah, I have to say I enjoyed it quite a bit. The Fernet is almost standing in as kind of the vermouth here in this martini riff, and I really liked the way that the kind of the aroma, that smoke of this peat smoke sort of worked out in the cocktail, and that was really delicious. Like I said, that's a whole hurdle to get through to get that smoke in there. I totally get that. Fernet is an ingredient that's widely used now in cocktails. You'll see it at every bar menu. It's really of the time for sure. So you should probably have a bottle of that on hand, or think about getting one, and then you can put this together pretty simply. So the way I would do this, if I was going, kind of an easier way, is I would just mix the whole thing up just as a martini. I would do the gin, the saline solution, and the Fernet in your shaker tin with some ice. Give that a nice stir, strain it into your cocktail glass, and then I would float maybe just a bar spoon's worth or so of a nice smoky scotch, something from the Islay region, or even like Johnny Walker there. So you're going to get a little bit of that peat kind of infusion. It's not going to be the aroma in the same exact sense, but it's going to give you a little bit of that flavor, a little bit of that hint, and then still garnish it with a lemon twist, just like you did with the other one. And I think that one's going to get you pretty close to the ballpark here. It's going to be a lot easier and a lot more manageable. I was making this right before I sat down to watch the movie, and I felt like I was dragging out like 4,000 ingredients and tools and getting out a torch for my smoke and all this stuff. So that was a lot of work. That was a lot of work. I need a little machine that you can stick your face into and just imagine what you want, and it gives it to you. That's what I need. That's what Zoe. That's what you need. That's what I need. That's what I need. So we get one of those for cocktails. That would be good. So I don't know. Any parting thoughts here about the Pan Galactic Gargle Blaster, Michaela? Is this what you need to get on your journey?
I think it's what everybody needs. It
I mean, they
definitely
start
was.
screaming when they have it. so.
They do. It's pretty epically funny. I will say that it is the opposite. Our making of it was the opposite of what happens in the movie, because what happens in the movie is like 3 drops of liquid go into this martini glass, and it's clear, and it's and they take like 1 sip and scream. That we didn't. It wasn't nearly that way. So we had 17 ingredients kind of laid out on a table, but you made the drink, so it was a lot neater than when I make drinks. We didn't have sticky substances all over the place, so that's good.
That's true. So take a look. We'll have the cocktail recipe and stuff like that all on our website, and pictures and all that fun stuff. So give this a try. It was really fun, and definitely play around at least with some Fernet, and maybe pair that up with some gin drinks, because I really like that flavor combination. So mix one of those up. Michaela, we're going to do that. We're going to go see if we can, we have the answer to everything 42. Let's go see if we can find the question, and we'll be right back to chat about this week's film, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Attention, people of Earth. I regret to inform you that in order to make way for the new hyperspace express route, your planet has been scheduled for demolition. Have a nice day.
Hang on, we're hitching a ride.
Spoiler warning for The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. If you've not yet seen this film, you really have. You just don't know it. So we're going to talk about all of the things. So if you don't want to be spoilered, you should press pause. You should go make yourself up a pan-galactic gargle blaster, and then you can drink that, scream really loud, watch this film, come back, and we can chat about it.
Absolutely.
You've been warned.
You have been warned. Don't panic if you've not seen it yet. You still have time. So this came out in 2005. It was directed by Garth Jennings, and it was written by Douglas Adams, who kind of wrote the outline, the story here that we're talking, and then Kerry Kirkpatrick came in to do some kind of script touch-ups, right, to get it more movie tuned, I guess. So this one stars Martin Freeman as our traveler Arthur Dent. His friend Ford Perfect is played by Mos Def. Zoe Deschanel is Trillian, the Earth girl that he falls in love with at a party and ends up having to rescue. Sam Rockwell is the Galactic President Zaphod Beeblebrox, and Marvin, the paranoid android, is voiced by none other than Alan Rickman, costumed by Warwick Davis. So there you go. We got some Harry Potter alums in there. We got all sort of people. There's like the 6 separations of Kevin Bacon all happening within this movie. All these people have done all these things together all this time. So what is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Everyone knows it. Even if you've never read it, you're definitely aware of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, because it's a big deal. Something I didn't realize was that it actually started as a radio show. It wasn't the book first. It was the radio show first in 1978. The book came out in 1979, and then there were like 100 more books after that. There was a TV show in 1981, a text adventure game in 1984. That's pretty prominent, actually, because it was one of the very first adventure computer games, this Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And then finally, we have the feature film in 2005 that we're going to be talking about today. Michaela, you mentioned something very interesting in our little intro segment there, is that you said that you watched this movie and you're like, I've seen that like 2 or 3 other versions of this movie. What's the deal with that? And weird thing is this is the only version of the movie, as far as I know. When we sat down to watch this, my wife said, oh, is this a new version of that? Because apparently everyone thinks there's lots of movie versions of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but that's not true.
This is like the sci-fi version of Shazam.
Yeah.
Or Shim Sham, or because there's that name. Remember, what is that called? It's like not the butterfly effect. It's like the Mandela effect, where people think, right? People think things and they're wrong, but they're so. I swear to all the molecules that I watched this in the theater and I was like, I have seen this before. And then it ended and I was like, I knew that it was going to end like that. Huh. Why? And then I tried to go find the earlier version and I couldn't find it. So I was like, well, this is really strange. And I thought it was some cosmic conscious quest or something. But no. I'm so glad that your wife and I were on the same level, because we both felt that way. I'm glad I wasn't alone.
That's right, absolutely. So apparently a lot of people felt that way, but this was my first time seeing the movie, and we're gonna kind of talk about our experience with this franchise kind of as we work our way through this. But let's get into the movie here a little bit. We're going to do our darn best to keep this straight because the movie does a really good job of kind of explaining things. The way that it's using kind of the Hitchhiker's Guide here is like the survival guide. It kind of animates these things. So when it's talking about stuff like the babblefish, like it'll pop up with the Hitchhiker's Guide and kind of explain what it is and how it works and things. So it's kind of like literary in that sense, and it makes it a lot easier to keep straight.
The babelfish is small, yellow, leech-like, and probably the oddest thing in the universe. It feeds on brainwave energy, absorbing unconscious frequencies and excreting a matrix of conscious frequencies to the speech centers of the brain. The practical upshot of which is that if you stick one in your ear, you instantly understand anything said to you in any language.
We don't have that benefit here, being this audio version of the podcast, but we're going to do our best. So let's get this movie started off. Arthur Dent, played by Martin Freeman, is in his pajamas. He's in a bathrobe and he is laying in front of a bulldozer. Please don't bulldoze my house. And I love this because like the guy in charge of the construction or something, he looks down at Arthur Dent and he says, "Hey, do you know what's going to happen to this bulldozer if it has to run over you?" And Arthur's like, "No, what will happen?" And he's like, nothing will happen to this bulldozer if it has to run over you." And I love that. I love this way we're getting this thing started.
Yeah. So there's a theme here, and that Arthur Dent discovers that his house is to be immediately demolished to make way for like a highway, which in England they call a bypass. Okay. And he's like, "This isn't cool, guys. This is my house. You can't just do this." And the workman is like, "Look, you have had access to these plans for months." And he's like, "I didn't have access to them. I had to go into a basement. I had to go into a dungeon to see these things. And I just saw them." And he's like, "Look, I have no sympathy for you. You read the fine print. You should have done your homework. It's happening today." And he's like, "Absolutely not. Don't take my house. Don't destroy it." And then his friend Ford Perfect just kind of shows up and is like, "Hey," I love Ford's character, who's played by Mos Def. One of my favorite characters. He's so weird at the beginning. You know that something's not quite right.
He's pushing a cart of like 5,000 beers. Who doesn't love that?
Yeah, right. And he's like, "We got to go to a pub." And Arthur thinks, "Hey, that's fine. We can go to the pub." The bypass team that was going to bulldoze him, they're going to lunch or they're going to a coffee break. They're like, whatever. So he thinks he has some time.
They're like, "We're going to drink." Yeah. So he gives the construction guys the beers and he's like, "Oh, we have until they finish drinking these beers so we can go to the pub and get ourselves a drink." Because he thinks it's going to take them a super long time. But of course, by the time they're finished with this one drink at the pub, they're already like tearing the house down because they just tore through those beers. I think that's
right. It is awesome.
Foreman, 6 pints of bitter and quickly. The world's about to end.
6 points coming up.
Keep the change. You got about 10 minutes to spend it.
It's 3 pints each at lunchtime.
But Ford is like, "Hey, everybody," he drops like a large amount of money on the pub and says, "Hey, drinks for everyone because it's the end of the world." And Arthur doesn't really believe him at first, but he's like, "Look, you're going to need a towel. Go get a towel. We got to go. You saved my life years ago when I was here." And we see this scene of him like saying hello to a bus and almost getting hit by it. But then Arthur saves him. And so that's how they became friends years ago. And Ford tries to explain that he's actually an alien. And he was a journalist and he works for like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy folks. It's kind of like Froder's, but way cooler. Mm-hmm. And he says, "Hey, I've been here for a little while and you got to know today is the day. Not only is your house being destroyed, but Earth is also going to be demolished. And coincidentally enough, it's going to be demolished by this race of people called the Vogons who are making a hyperspace bypass." So the coincidentness, that's not a word.
I don't know, but I
It's
do
very
like
serendipitous.
it's serendipitous. That's
a real word.
We'll refer to the Hitchhiker's Guide for what word to use right now. I really like because they kind of talk about the Vogons. There are these people that are building this bypass, and kind of the narrator here. The narrator is Stephen Fry. Comes on and is like, the Vogons aren't necessarily evil people, but they're highly bureaucratic, and it basically just describes them as like the most red tape sort of kind of governmental sort of body of all time. And one of the bad things about Vogons is apparently like to recite poetry, which will make you go insane and your head explode, all that sort of stuff. So that's going to come into play a little bit later. So we learn a little bit about them. We also learn about Trisha McMillan. We learn that, and some kind of flashback there is they're pondering, I guess, their last moments on Earth. You get Arthur is thinking back to this party where he met this girl. She was kind of strange. Wanted him to just run off. They're at like this costume party kind of thing, which is pretty fun. Trisha is played by Zoe Deschanel, and so we get kind of insight as to who she is, because she's going to stumble into our journey a little bit later. And we're also getting introduced to one Zaphod Beeblebrox, the newly elected president.
Hey, excuse me. This guy boring you? Why don't you talk to me instead? I'm from a different planet. It's true. You want to see my spaceship?
You want to see my spaceship? I mean, really, what kind of a chat-up line is that?
Yeah. And Zaphod, he's like, I don't know. I don't know. He's like he's the president of the galaxy, but he's a real not smart person. He's very showy. He talks in taglines the whole time. He winks at everybody. They also met at this party, right? So Trisha and Arthur were having a conversation. Trisha's kind of like, hey, want to get out of here? Let's go to Madagascar. And Arthur is kind of this like super well-meaning guy. He's like, you just love him because he's such a kind, like genuine person, but he doesn't really quite know what to do with it. He's not, he doesn't know what to do with Trisha in the sense that you can tell he likes her immediately, but he doesn't know how to like meet her energy and be like, yeah, and be really, spontaneous and things like that, and brave to like, hey, let's do it. Let's go to Madagascar. But Zaphod Beeblebrox, he's just like this total, like all he is fluff. And so he comes in and he's like, hey, want to be in my spaceship? and honestly, I don't know why Trisha goes with him, because she seems like a smart person, and this is a line that a lot of women have heard, but she's like, yeah, show me your spaceship, dude. It must be the long hair. I don't know.
It's the long blonde hair. It is the Sam Rockwell persuasion, I guess, of it all. But Trisha wanted to go on an adventure, right? She asked Arthur to go to Madagascar. I think it was Madagascar, and Arthur's like, well, I have a job. I can't do that. We can't go on these adventures. Maybe we can go to, I don't know, for like Cornwall or something. You wanted to go just like in England. She's like, yeah, that sounds great. So when you get whisked off to an alleged spaceship, maybe that's what you go for. So that's kind of the introduction here to our characters, which is kind of neat that it happens kind of in this flashback that our main character, our protagonist here, Arthur, actually knew all of these people before he stumbles into them. But as it turns out, your friend, Ford Perfect, was not lying. He was not making up the end of the earth. I like the kind of the barman there at the pub is like, what should we do? Should we lay down and put bags on our heads? Which I thought was pretty funny, kind of in that don't look up sort of vein. Mm-hmm. And he's like, sure, go ahead. And the barman's like, will that help? And he's like, no. So they go out.
Not at all.
What do they do? Ford sticks his thumb up. He has like a cool ring on it, and he says, we are hitching right out of here, because all of these scary looking little spaceship nodule tower things come and surround the earth, and poof, just like that.
Yeah. So I really want to talk about some of the special effects in this film too, because I thought that was amazing. So this is only 2005. So we say only. At the time, it was like, amazing. But this movie held up really well, I gotta say, because it did almost 20 years later, and it still looks gorgeous. The colors, I don't know how they filmed this, but the color differentiation in some of the other scenes that we're going to talk about is huge. I thought that this was amazing.
Yes.
What and the symbolism, those machine ships that like cover the earth, they're all office buildings. Did you notice that?
Yeah, they're all like skyscrapers. They're just these tall, skinny things, and you see them kind of like coming over like different parts of the earth, and it's just making like this perfect little like square shadow on it, and it all gets like all the way around. And yeah, you mentioned the visual effects, and as I was watching this, I was like, I was kind of, I don't know, like a half hour in, and I'm like, I'm gonna pull this up and look and see, because this definitely got nominated for the visual effects Academy Award, and that was not the case. King Kong won the visual effects Academy Award that year. Chronicles of Narnia and War of the Worlds were also nominated, but there were only 3 then. Had it been 5 like today, this definitely, I think, would have at least gotten a nomination. But kind of the creature work here, the special effects, the CGI, the practical stuff, it all looks really good.
It sure does. It sure does. And so after the Earth has exploded, or imploded, the way that they destroy Earth, I think, is also really beautiful, because it just kind of poofs, and there's like stardust, and that's it. And so Ford is like, hey, are you okay? The war, and he's like, well, I'm the last person that's ever going to live. I'm the last human in existence, he thinks. But then they escape onto this Vogan ship, and they're about to get read or Vogan poetry. In fact, they do start to be read Vogan poetry, because the Vogans find them. Apparently people don't like hitchhikers. It's kind of like now you wouldn't like somebody grabbing onto your car and like going on for a ride without your permission. I guess it's the same thing. But they capture them, they cover them with like cellar tape, which is weird because this is alien technology. They can blow up Earth, but they have cellar tape. I don't get it, but whatever. They start to read the poetry. Apparently nothing is worse. It's like the 3rd worst thing in the world is having a Vogan read poetry to you. And I think that gives the Vogans a bad rap, because they love bureaucracy, but they also love art.
They love art. That's right. They are artists at heart. And yeah, as it turns out, they're going to do that. They're going to do a bit of interrogation, a bit of poetry, slam kind of thing. And then they decide, what are you going to do with these hitchhikers? Throw them off the ship. I really like they toss Arthur and Ford off of the ship. They say that you can hold your breath for about 30 seconds in space. But unfortunately, space is really, really big. So the odds of you surviving and for longer than 30 seconds is not very great. But luckily for these two, they get tossed out and they get picked up by our newly elected president, right? Zaphod and his fun little red ship flies by, picks them up, and we're on our journey. And Arthur finds out that he's not alone, not the last Earthling.
No, because for some reason, Trillian or Trisha, she fell for that line, hook, line, and sinker. And
Zaphod was not lying about his spaceship.
Zaphod was not lying about his spaceship. It was not a euphemism. It wasn't. I mean, it was not, because he's got nothing but a spaceship. Let's be clear about that.
He has 2 faces, we find out.
We do. He and like. It's like a Jekyll and Hyde, but they know about each other kind of situation. Siamese twin nastiness. Like his head literally like lifts up, and the neck becomes the face, and he gets like a 3rd arm that will like punch you. Not cool. But which again, I'm just wondering, Trisha, what were you thinking? Because as soon as you saw that was happening, maybe get off the ship. I don't know, but it's a good thing he didn't. She didn't, I guess, because the rest of the story wouldn't happen. So she she's wearing shorts and like a t-shirt at the beginning of this, and then she decides she's got to change, and she changes into this really what today would be considered a really cute jumpsuit. But I remember thinking at the time, the first time I saw it, that the costuming of this was really interesting because we see Ford Perfect is in like this white kind of linen suit kind of thing. And Arthur is still in his bathrobe, and he doesn't ever not be in his bathrobe. It's freaking amazing. And like just whimsically like funky, like and she's in like this blue kind of jumpsuit thing, this light blue jumpsuit. It pairs beautifully with Zooey Deschanel's blue eyes. But when they see each other, Arthur is pleased and also really unpleased, and he can't help but be like, yeah, really, okay, he's this guy Zaphod Beeblebrox, he's got 2 heads. What else does he have to have You know, it's like Arthur's picks this moment to be clever, and Trisha's like, that's not cool. Don't be like that. And it's like, well, yeah, you did kind of go off with this dude who apparently signed the death warrant to Earth.
That's right. Yeah, we're gonna find out he signed the death warrant to Earth. What is Zaphod Beeblebrox up to? What is his real deal, right? So he's got these fun little cubes that he's feeding into his computer. We find out through a little bit of a flashback and some excellent animation and some voiceover work from Helen Mirren that basically Zaphod Beeblebrox is up to finding what is the ultimate question in the galaxy, right? He has this little like data cube that shows him that apparently like 1 million years ago, someone asked this supercomputer what the answer to everything was. And of course, the computer says 42. If you know anything about the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, if you maybe don't know anything about it, you've probably heard that, right? The answer to everything is 42. And that, I guess, is the case. But the problem is no one bothered to ask what the question was. So the answer to everything is 42. But what is the question? So that is what Zaphod is really trying to figure out, right? He's trying to run down what this question was. So we know the answer. It's kind of like Jeopardy, I guess, a little backwards thinking. So that is where he is going. But we're going to run into some trouble because, you know, in your pursuit of that ultimate question, you're going to go and run into, I don't know if he's an enemy, a frenemy, I don't know, but I do know that he is played by what's his name? John Malkovich. Huma Kavula, who might have the answers we need. So that is kind of the next stop on this journey. There on our spaceship. We also meet someone else, Marvin, the paranoid or the clinically depressed paranoid android, voiced by Alan Rickman. I've only seen this movie one time, and I already can't imagine anyone else in the whole world for all time other than Alan Rickman having voiced this character.
I've been talking to the ship's computer, and it hates me.
No, absolutely. His comedic timing is amazing, and given the fact that it's kind of like an animated film, right? Like as a voice actor of something, you really are relying on someone else to make all the movements work. So I don't know how Warwick Davis and Alan Rickman came together to like plan this out, but it is absolutely perfect. I didn't know until researching for the pod that it was Warwick Davis, and it makes so much sense. That they paired them together because they're both so amazing at that kind of the timing of pairing the words that they're using with like the gestures. And given that he's Warwick Davis is in this robot kind of thing, right? Like he's kind of got this Humpty Dumpty kind of cadence when he walks. He's got this ginormous head, and it's all black and white except for the little green eyes that glow. And it's so cute. But we got to talk about Huma Kavula.
Huma Kavula. Yeah,
Huma
that's right.
Kavula. They're not enemies. They were opponents of the presidential race. So they're kind of like enemies. It's kind of like today where it's like, oh, we got the good guys and the bad guys. Although in this case, I don't know if we can really identify which one is which, but Huma Kavula is an amazing character played by John Malkovich. I really loved this kind of side story because they go to Wildwaldo 6, which is where Huma Kavula lives. Huma Kavula is a pastor, like a minister, and he believes very, very fervently that there is a god that is sneezing or something. They're all going to be sneezed, and the great white handkerchief is going to come save them all. The symbolism there is amazing. I thought it was really great because it looks like you're going into like a Methodist church. It's really what it looks like. But then you meet Huma Kavula, and he is not at all what he actually looks like. They're like having dinner with him. He's wearing these glasses. He takes them off. He has no eyeballs. It's really creepy. And then he like starts to walk literally across the table because he is not like a normal tall person, even though that's what he looks like. He's like half robot, and it's really creepy and gross. And he's like, hey, I've got this cube I want to go and I want to go to Magrathea, which is where Zaphod Beeblebrox thinks that is where
where the question
is,
was
right?
originally asked. Yeah, that's
right,
where he thinks he can get it. Yeah, I really like the character design of Huma Kuvula. Yeah, is weird because like you mentioned, he takes his glasses off, no eyes, and you think that's as weird as it's going to get, but then no, he kind of like stands up on the table. He's got like 100 little gold legs, and I mean, we should have been tipped off. In fairness, John Malkovich is playing this character, so there's going to be something super weird about the character, right? John Malkovich only does one thing, and that's play real weirdos. So that's who. So he basically makes a bargain, and I really like kind of the back and forth where they're talking about the presidential election, because it keeps showing like this like I don't like election poster for Zaphod, and he's just doing like the little like finger guns like at the thing and smiling, and that's kind of pretty great. But he basically makes a deal, right? He says, I will give you this cube with the destination of this place you're trying to get to. If you get me this weapon, this POV gun, that sounds good. But they end up just stealing the cube basically, and getting chased out of there. But not everyone is going to make it out a-okay. That is Trillian. She's going to get taken, and unfortunately, she's going to get sentenced to some sort of creepy death.
Yeah, some sort of creepy death. And again, this is where the Vogons come in, right? Because they are the ones holding her. And so Arthur, Ford, and Zaphod are like, hey, what do we do to release our friend? And Zaphod's like, hey, man, I'm the president. What do we do? And they're like, oh, you need these release the prisoner on the order of the president forms. And so they think they get the right form, and they go back in line. And there's this whole thing about being British, so you know how to queue. The queue is like 1,000,000 lines long. It's the race against time. We think for sure Trillian is going to be cut into 1,000,000 pieces, and we're not going to save her. And of course they get up there and they're like, no, this is the wrong form. The one you need is blue. And like, there's no sense of urgency, like at all. And I have to say, I definitely felt triggered watching this part, because I was like, oh my God, the president is right there. Why can't you just do this? But it all works out at the very end. And they do get Trillian back, and she's okay, much to the dismay of the Vogons, because I'm pretty sure that they took a little bit of joy in just torturing everybody in that line.
That's right. Yeah, I really like this section here. It's like the Galactic DMV, basically. And Arthur is like, he's like, oh, I'm British. I know this. I can queue. I'm good at queuing. So he goes and stands in line, and then they kind of push their way forward there with the president and all this stuff with the line. But they get Trillian out of there. That's good. But she finds out, right? She sees the death warrant, and sees the death warrant for the planet, and sees that our very own Galactic president Zaphod just signed it away, because he just thought someone wanted his autograph. He didn't read it, just signed his name to it, and therefore triggered the destruction of Earth. So that's not great. But what is great is our team now has this cube, so they can go to what is it? Margarithia? Is that what it's called?
Magrathea.
Magrathea. They're on their way to Magrathea, and it's really funny because they use their ship there. The Heart of Gold. They go, and they have it's called like the improbability jump or something. The ship just changes into a bunch of weird things, and it can go anywhere. But now it has the coordinates, so it can get to Magrathea, and they get there, but someone pops up and he's like, hey, welcome to Magrathea. We have a welcoming gift for you, and it's 2 missiles to shoot you out of the sky. We hope you enjoy your gift, and we will be monitoring your progress, which is pretty great. So what are you going to do? Missiles are coming, so you make another jump, but luckily they jump back to the same exact place, but everything has changed. When you make a jump in this thing, everything's changed. So like they jump like the one time, and they're like these little like wool sort of creatures.
Yeah, like crocheted yarn things.
They do once. They're like little tiny. They jump once, and they're all like eating cereal or something. I don't know. A bunch of weird stuff happens. But when they get back to Magrathea, something real weird is happening, because those missiles now have turned into a bowl of, what are they, hydrangeas? I think
hydrangeas or petunias or something.
A bowl of flowers and a whale.
And a whale.
Very random.
Yeah, it's very sad. So the bowl of petunias like crashes against the ship, and nothing happens. And then the whale, it's heavy, so it goes down to the planet and dies. And I do love, again, the writing and the idea of this is just so far-fetched and amazing, because they talk about like, well, the whale came into existence and its first thought is, what am I? Oh, what am I doing? Oh, am I flying? Am I swimming? And then he crashes and dies. And it's actually very dark, but very funny.
It is important to note that suddenly, and against all probability, a sperm whale had been called into existence several miles above the surface of an alien planet. But since this is not a naturally tenable position for a whale, this innocent creature had very little time to come to terms with its identity. This is what it thought as it fell.
It is very dark. Yeah, the story itself here is pretty dark. It's pretty funny. It's pretty dry. Kind of British sense of humor here in the story. And yeah, it's kind of crazy, and hopefully we're doing it any sort of justice here in describing it. But basically our team now is made it to Magrathea. They get there, they land, and they're trying to figure out where they need to go, right? They're trying to go find this kind of point of view gun. They're trying to find the question that was asked. They have a lot of stuff to find, and there's this weird portal. Trillian is not fazed by this. She just jumps into the portal, and she's followed pretty quickly by Zaphod and Ford. But Arthur, he is a bit of I don't know, a worrier, I guess. Arthur says, I'm not going to jump into that weird portal, but eventually he summons up the courage to go through it. But he was a little bit too late because it turns off right in time. So Arthur is left stranded with Marvin, the paranoid android, there to be rescued by my favorite character. My favorite kind of performance in this whole thing is Slartibartfast, played by none other than Bill Nye. Excellent in this. But now our crew's separated, Michaela. That's bad.
That is bad. I want to talk a little bit about this because I agree. This is probably my favorite part of the movie because Slartibartfast is one of these planet builders. Apparently, you can just buy. I don't know. You can buy a planet. He built Norway. I mean, he's like, well, I did my part. I mean, I'm not the one who made Earth all on its own, but
it was a team effort.
It was a team effort, and he's like, hey, do you want to see the shop floor? And so the vastness of the universe in this, I'd love to hear what like really the great minds of the universe, like the Brian Coxes and like the Stephen Hawking's thought when they saw this film. If they ever saw this film, because the idea that there is a shop floor somewhere where like Earth and Mars are like being built or rebuilt is amazing to me. But they've got this like, it's like a cherry picker that they sit on, that they stand in. It's like and it takes them with like one arm everywhere, all over. And so they're like, oh, we made Earth, we're rebuilding it. We've got like a prototype. And so we're seeing the mountains be built. We're seeing that they're like, well, we're almost finishing the oceans now. And you see like a dude with a giant hose, like filling the ocean. It's so great. And it's so fantastical, and yet it totally works. And I thought this is really where I thought the special effects were just amazing, because they're kind of floating around in this space, and it doesn't work if you think about the mathematics of it like at all, but they're able to like go all over the Earth. And he's showing him, Slartibartfast is showing Arthur, England and the Himalayas and the oceans. And it's like, oh, well, we created this and we've got this new version of Earth and we're almost done. We're almost done with it. It's really a fantastical journey that Arthur gets to see that the other team, the other of his friends don't get to see, because they're busy having a conversation that does not go well with Deep Thought, who's played by the amazing voice of Helen Mirren. Deep Thought is the supercomputer who answered the question. So when they go there and they're like, hey, have you come up with a question yet? She's like, no, I've been watching TV. It's like, oh no.
I made another computer to do that.
They're in the wrong place. And of course, Zaphod Beeblebrox is like, oh, well, I guess I'll go figure out what else to do with my life, because I spent my whole life trying to figure out this question.
That's right. It's not all bad news, right? So he spent this whole entire movie trying to find this question, and basically figures out that he's been going down the wrong path this whole time, and just kind of abandons that hope. But I guess good news is they did find that POV gun that was mentioned earlier, right? That they were supposed to make the swap for. So now they have this gun, which seems pretty useful, right? You can shoot someone with it, and then it shows them basically, or they get like the insight to what your point of view was on something. I guess it would be good at ending arguments, maybe, and that's kind of what happens there with between Trillian and Zaphid there. But the gun is going to come into play here in just a minute. But on the other side of this portal, right, you have Arthur, you have Slartibartfast going through learning about Earth, and Slartibartfast says, "Hey, I can take you down to Earth 2.0. We've been working on building it, since the first one got destroyed, just in case. Let's go down and take a look." And they kind of land, and it's Arthur's house, right? It's all spick and span. He's like, yeah, it's perfect, just the way that it was. So he goes inside, and who does he find there? But his buddies. Everyone's there. They're having some sort of feast, and there's these two little mice who I guess are the embodiment of like the creators of everything, which is pretty neat. So it's kind of fun that they're these two little mice. But what they've decided to do is they think that question was maybe originally asked on Earth. So what do? You cut open Arthur's head, you steal his brain, and see if you can find the answers there. Now, I don't know why they also didn't think that maybe they could have done that to Trillian, right? She was also one of the people on Earth, so I don't know why she got off the hook.
She's got prettier eyeballs. That's why.
I guess that's.
And they were
that's
like,
right.
"Well, we'll save the blue eyes. It's fine."
We'll save Zoe Deschanel and sacrifice Martin Freeman here in this instance. So he gets strapped to a chair. They're going to cut open his brain because these mice want it. But Arthur's not going to give up without a fight, is he, Michaela? I don't think so.
No, nothing a tea kettle can't solve.
That's right.
So that's what he does. He crushes them.
That seems like it could have ramifications somewhere down the line, potentially. I don't know.
The thing about this whole thing that I missed the first time I watched this was that Slartibartfast has to know what's going on. He's like, I'll be outside, Miss and Mrs. Mice, and they're like, that's fine. And so and apparently these mice are the most smart, most high-powered beings on Earth. Behind there, so they're the smartest. The second they're the most intelligent. The second most intelligent are all the dolphins that just like left one day with a note saying so long and thanks for all the fish. And then humans, which I take exception to because I think we're way further down on the list of intelligent life than we think. Yeah. But yeah, Arthur, he crushes the poor mice with tea kettles, and now they're the little girls again. They look like little girls. They look like young children, but they're like, I can't believe you did that to us.
That's right.
And then they disappear.
They're like 1,000,000 years old. They disappear. Right. Yeah, they get crushed. They get crushed with the tea kettle. But yeah, I guess everything is solved, kind of. I guess, right? So they all come to you. They all kind of apologize, like Trillian apologizes for I don't know. She didn't really have anything to apologize for, but she says she's sorry. So that's nice, I guess. And Arthur says that's okay. Everyone is coming together one last hurrah, and they go back outside. But bad news: the Vogons are there. They're still all agitated as all get out. They're going to wage war, I guess, to get Arthur and crew, but luckily they have that POV gun. So when Marvin, the clinically depressed paranoid android, shoots these Vogons with this gun, they see things there. They get too depressed to fight anymore. They get shuffled off, and Slartibartfast says, Arthur, you done good. Let me put you back on Earth 2.0. Everything will go back to the way that it was. But Arthur says, nah, me and Trillian, we're out to explore the galaxy.
That's right. And so the Heart of Gold crew decides that there's like, hey, Ford says, I know a restaurant at the end of the universe. And they're like, let's go. And it's so funny because Bill Nye's character, Slartibartfast, is like, well, we've decided we're so close to finishing. We might as well finish Earth. So it'll be here when you get back, which is great. It's always nice to know you have a home to go back to. Right. Right. And so they start up the Heart. I don't know how any of that works. But they become, I don't know, like 6 or 7 things as they're going across the universe. And of course, Marvin is, we think he dies, right? When he gets shot.
Yeah.
And that's
Gets shot
very
in the
sad.
head.
But then he, I don't know, wakes up and is okay. I guess he was too depressed to die. He couldn't even give that up. He was like, no way. But he's like, no one cares, but we're the restaurant's on the other side of the universe. So they end up going the other way. And I love the very last sequence of kind of the improbability drive that shoots, because the very last thing that the ship becomes is the face of Douglas Adams, who unfortunately passed away before the film was completed and was seen. So he never got to see his kind of creation on the big screen, which makes me really sad. But I was really happy to see that they paid homage to him in that way, because that was it very much tugged on the old heartstring. I loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of where the movie ends. None of that probably made that much sense. There's a lot of very wacky predicaments, a lot of wacky names of places. The way that they travel is very wacky. It's very hard to describe, but one thing that is really neat about the movie, the story, I'm assuming, I've not ever read the book. I'm kind of familiar with the story of it a little bit, but I think that it's neat that it's kind of this little like galactic hop, and I really like the way that the movie was constructed, where you're kind of like looking at this like visual sort of like emergency plan kind of thing. It's like animated. It pops up as like this animated survival guide, and will kind of show you through some things, like the way that things are working and it's very witty and very dry sounding. Like I said, Stephen Fry is doing the narration here, so anytime a section like that pops up or something needs explained, he comes on to do it. And I think that it worked really well actually as a movie, and it was a long time coming, obviously 2005 all the way from the kind of the original radio drama and stuff there. But I don't know, it was really good. It was really funny. It looks really, really good. And something we didn't even talk about, you mentioned it very briefly there at the end. The dolphins all leave because they're the smartest things on the planet. The whole opening of the film, like the opening credit sequence, is just like this musical number by these dolphins saying thank you for the fish.
So long, so long, so long, so long, so long, and thanks for all the fish.
It's pretty amazing. Whoever got to film that stuff had a good time for sure. But yeah, that is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So Michaela, did you have any experience? Have you ever read this book, or did you watch the other versions of the movies that didn't exist? That we all thought existed? I don't know.
No. I have not. So now it just inspired me to actually I've just recently gotten back into reading and become a reader. I used to read all the time, and I have no life. So this is on my list of things to do. I really loved this. The first time I saw this film, it was in the theater, and that was the only time I'd seen it. Before the sake of this podcast, watching it. And I remember thinking it was good. I remember not being completely blown away. And I am wrong. I don't know why I didn't absolutely love it last time, because I really enjoyed it this time around. And maybe it was because I was too young to really understand kind of the implications of what it was and how meaningful it was to the world. Because again, I mean, there's so many things now in the newer versions of like Doctor Who that really seem to get a lot of their ideas from this. And this was so much more than a movie, as you say, right? It's the books. It was a show before that. It was a radio show before that. Like, and the idea of just space travel and the fact that Earth was the question, like it's, and thinking about it in that holistic kind of heart cave way, and very nostalgic and yet expansive as the universe, that will never get old to me. So I'm really excited to get into the books. There were 5, I think, originally, and now there's like 456. So it might take me a minute, but what about you?
You have to do that. Yeah, no, I've never read the books. I'm interested to go back and I'm sure that it's available somewhere. I haven't looked into it, but that original kind of radio drama, because I really like radio dramas, and obviously like the podcast medium that we're talking on now. So I'm interested to see if I can find like actually that original thing, and then dig into the books, because yeah, these these characters are very influential. They have played a huge major part in popular culture from, the late 70s to today. If you go to the Wikipedia page for Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, there's like, I don't know, like an entire like pages worth of things that it has inspired and all that stuff. I'm gonna name a couple of them here. Babelfish, which I mentioned earlier, is that online translator tool that comes directly from this. The Babelfish there, you actually get the little Babelfish scene in this. It's like this little yellow fish looking guy goes into Martin Freeman's ear. Looks very uncomfortable. That's not how I would like to translate things. Coldplay, an album we talked about on Drink the Music, took their title for their song 42, as well as another song, I think, from this work here. Radiohead, my favorite band. The album OK Computer comes from Zaphod talking to his computer, right? OK Computer, let's go. And then obviously Paranoid Android, kind of their probably most notable track from that album comes right here from Marvin. Homages in Lost and Doctor Who, like you mentioned, Star Trek, The X-Files. Everything is taking inspiration and paying homage to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So I don't know how Douglas Adams did it. He was ahead of his time in the way that the story came together and was told, for sure. I feel very terrible about myself that I don't have more experience with this. I plan to rectify it very soon.
I like that idea. We'll do a drink the radio show.
Drink the audiobook.
That's right. That'll be amazing. No, I agree completely. I mean, I think I'm glad. I'm kind of glad though that we were wrong in this Mandela effect, thinking that we had seen this film, because I think that they did it right. I feel like they don't, and I hope they don't make another one for a while, because I think that this paid really good homage to all of those things that you just said, right? So this does not need another rehatching for at least another 20 years, guys. I hope Hollywood's not listening to me. They're in the middle of their SAG stuff, but that's what they should be doing, is not worrying about this, because this one's fine. They don't need to mess it up. It's not broken.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah, and it was kind of surreal to watch it. It was like a Love Actually reunion here between Martin Freeman and Bill Nighy and Alan Rickman. It was like the gang was all back together there for that. So yeah, it was really good. Like I said, the story, the way we just described it, probably doesn't make a lot of sense. But if you're into this kind of really like super quirky humor, or if you like the story of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and you've not seen the film, go check it out. It's really great. You're gonna have to probably rent it from your streaming service or get it some way. I actually rented it from the library through their digital streaming platform. So maybe that's a good option to get your movies out there too. So give it a watch. It's really funny. It's really good. It's really well made, and yeah, pretty great. I'm glad to have gotten to see this. So thanks for putting it on to the list, Michaela. And make sure, if you're going to be watching this, go ahead and make yourself up a Pan Galactic Gargle Blaster. It is the perfect cocktail for when you're shooting across space with Marvin, the paranoid android, at your side. So give one of those a try. Take pictures of it. Send those in to us. Let us know what you think about Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Let us know why we're terrible people for not having read the book yet. All that stuff. You can do it on our social medias. It's at Drink the Movies on Instagram and X and Threads and Facebook.com/drinkthemovies. You can go to our website, www.drinkthemovies.com, if you want to see pictures of our cocktail, recipes, episode recaps, all that good stuff. That's can be found there on the website. And if you want bonus content, extra episodes, behind the scenes stuff, early access to these episodes, you can do that on our Patreon, patreon.com/drinkthemovies. We appreciate everyone's support over there. It's a great way to support the podcast and get a little bit extra. So thank you to everyone who has partaken in that. And thank you to everyone who has taken the time to leave us a review. Michaela, where can they do that?
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere where Spotify podcasts are distributed and supported. We are super knocked out every day that we get to do this, and we couldn't do it without you. So if you're liking what you're hearing, press the subscribe button. If you're really liking what you're hearing, tell your friends, leave a 5-star review, share us on all the social medias, because it really helps us get Drink the Movies out there.
Absolutely. So that is going to take care of that, Michaela. We said at the top, don't panic. We didn't panic. We might have panicked a little bit. I don't know. I think we did okay though. So let's do this. Let's go grab our towel. Let's grab a Pan Galactic Gargle Blaster and let's get out of here. We'll go see if we can find that restaurant on the other end of the galaxy. And we'll talk to everyone next time on
Drink
the Movies.
the Movies. Huma Kavula? I thought he was swearing.
So weird looking.
Must be Thursdays. I can never get the hang of Thursdays. I've just heard from the other computer, and it hates me. So many good lines. I can't pick just one.
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of good ones.